Yo, 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 yo. What's poppin', boys? What's poppin', everybody? I see the chat going off already. Let's make sure nothing playing in the background. Okay, let's pause that. Okay. So, yeah, shout out to everybody tuning in. Welcome back. Welcome back. We live again as a part of the 90 days straight of live streaming. Like I say, we're in the 30s, but I don't know the exact date yet, and it doesn't even matter because until we're halfway, I'm not going to concern myself. But we're definitely in the 30-day range of the 90-day live stream streak. So subscribe if you're not subscribed. Like the video just to start it off. I'm going to tell you boys early, like the damn video. We got a couple good things to get into today. And that's kind of about it. Once we get into these couple of topics, not much else, but we can get into the weeds on a couple of other topics. For example, maybe we can dive into a little bit of the Tommy McMillan fight week. So, without further ado, here it is. The thumbnail. Well, actually, before I even get into the thumbnail, let me just read out some of the chats. Oh, Andrew, no need. Wait, let me see what AI2A was saying. Gay. L streamer, gay, L streamer, gay. Andrew Nance, you could leave AI2AB. He's kind of just a troll. He's a known troll. It's fine. Just try not to spam it too much, AI2A. Like, I don't mind you spamming a little bit. But, I mean, AI2A, you mad at me today? You're not mad at me? You kind of bipolar, homie. So who knows where you're at today? You come in 1 minute, hot and spicy. Then you come in another minute being like, I'm sorry, bro. Will you please forgive me? I was wrong. Shout out to Andrew Nance, though. Thanks for looking out, homie. I appreciate it. But yeah, AI2A, what's the vibe you on today? Don't worry, I have CTE. Now I'm just curious what kind of vibe you on today, homie. You hate me today or you like me today? Which one is it? But yeah, shout out to Andrew Nance dropping the hooded Dober emojis. He might as well be the first one in the chat this evening, but it was AI2A dropping the gaze. It's fine. A little bit of a love-hate from AI2A. All good. Perfecto, shout out Perfecto saying we here. The Street Mafia is here, dude. My man. Thanks for filing in right on time. Otto's in this bitch wishing me a good evening. Shout out to Otto. I wish you the same, homie. What up, man? I hope you're having a great one out there and everybody else too. But I hope you're having a great one. I got you, homie. Thank you. I'm having a good day. Typical day, you feel me? Typical day. We got the Hooded Dobers. What's poppin'? Tony Sal. Andrew Nance dropping the buck emojis. Can't wait for that fight. Castro walking down Nate Diaz tonight. Oh, okay. All right, we can get into the topic. Shout out Tiger Johnson, question mark. Who's Tiger Johnson? Lots of good stuff from the Nate interview. I agree, Tony. I agree. Scott says, what up, bro? What's poppin', homie? Scott says, who do you think Conor fights if he comes back? Nate about to get fucked up by Perry. Okay, Scott. I disagree about the whole Nate Diaz getting fucked up by Perry part. But who do I think Conor fights when he comes back? Or if he comes back? Bro, I don't know, man. Maybe Max Holloway. Maybe Max. I don't know. Any suggestions? Who do you guys think in the chat? Conor returns. Who's realistic for him? Nate Diaz thinks it might be Charles Oliveira. We could just go with that. But anyway, so let's get into some of these Conor versus Buck. Shit, Buck gets past Brady. Why not? Why not? If Buck can run up them numbers against a guy like Brady, meaning, I don't know how many views and how much attention this fight's going to get just on account that Sean Brady's one half of it. And, it's not a main event, so we'll see. Scott says, I'm thinking either Holloway or Masvidal. Yeah, Holloway's definitely a front runner. Masvidal as well, Scott. Masvidal's been building it low-key on the back end for a long time as well. The McGregor fight. He's been building it on the back end for a long, long, long time. Always stayed calling out McGregor, throughout his whole, ending of his UFC career pretty much. Okay, shout out to Tony Style dropping the Sean Brady emoji. So, the topic on the day, Nate Diaz. He revealed that he turned down the McGregor Trilogy, bro. Let's just head over to IG and pull it up over here because it's a little bit better. I just got a little bit more context for you guys. So, yeah, man, Nate revealed on Theo Vaughn this morning that he turned down the McGregor Trilogy, and it's like, gosh, bro. Gosh, bro. It's like this is, I've been on the UFC's ass being like the UFC sucks. And even more the reason, right? I'm not gonna remove myself from that stance, but I'm saying even more the reason, there are uncontrollable factors, right? Like I say, the cost of doing business. Equate this to, product loss, right? Or damaged products or thieves in grocery stores. It's the cost of doing business. You're gonna take L's along the way of conducting business. And this is an L the UFC had to take. We were kind of blaming the UFC being like, how the fuck does MVP out negotiate you, bro? Right? How did they offer Nate more money than you? Turns out that's not the case. The UFC did offer Nate more money than MVP offered Nate to fight Mike Perry. But where they, got caught up, I guess, is that the UFC wanted Nate to return against Conor McGregor. And it's like, bro, easier fight. I mean, Nate's going to basically call it an easier fight. He says he doesn't want to fight Conor on his last leg. Here's the quote. Nate Diaz reveals he turned down a bigger offer for Conor McGregor Trilogy in UFC than he's getting to fight Mike Perry on Netflix. Quote, I'm not trying to go kill off Conor when he's on his last dying leg. Literally. It's like, bro, I get it. It's respectable. But I mean, how about the other side of the argument, which is you get a bigger check and an easier fight. Easier lick, bigger check. But you're too morally just. You need to fight the best of the best. All of a sudden, it's not about money. I think this was a miss from Nate, and I don't know. I don't know if he's coping. I don't know if it's something else, and essentially, yeah, coping, right? Like, who knows if he didn't want to get locked up in a long-term deal. The other thing I'm kind of considering is maybe Nate didn't want to fight contenders, so he's waiting for some of these other contenders at the top right now to fizzle out. Like an Arman Sarukian, for example, because I could totally see the UFC setting Nate up against an Arman Sarukian, just like they did Nate versus Hamzat. And I just realized, Arman in 155, so we're talking about 170, right? But you got Islam at the top, Ian Gary, Michael Morales. So I don't know, is Nate ducking these guys because he knows he'd be put up against them? Is he kind of turning down the Conor McGregor Trilogy like he's insinuating he's doing? I don't necessarily know, honestly. But it's I don't know. I almost don't believe him when he says that, I don't want to fight Conor because he's on his last dying leg, even though I got offered more money. What sense does that make, bro? I get it, but the fans want to see this shit. I wonder if the UFC I wonder if the UFC deal was long term. That's what I'm wondering. Was it the UFC deal? Was it the fact that he might get thrown to contenders? That's kind of what I'm thinking it is, more so than the reason he gave. It's like, bro, you got robbed in the rematch, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. You got robbed in the fucking rematch. You should have won that shit. Conor, you know, Conor's confidence is always sky high, whether or not he got a broken leg. So it's like, it would still be satisfying to beat that dude's ass. So I don't know, man. I don't know. You got robbed, and Conor still talks shit. Why not run it? Like, yeah, Conor broke his leg. He doesn't act like it. Silva came back and beat your brother on a broken leg. You know, I don't know. So, in a nutshell, we'll get into this topic. We could just get into this topic now, but let's do a little rundown. So, this isn't the only thing Nate Diaz talked about on the Theo Von podcast. Nate Diaz also said he thinks he would beat the dog shit out of Charles Oliveira. And this can be a little spoiler alert. I think Nate would beat the shit out of Charles. I know a lot of you guys disagree with me, and that's totally fine. My stance on Nate Diaz and who he could fight. I feel like I've always been on an island with this, and I got like more belief in him than a lot of other people do. Cough, cough, like Daniel Cormier, which is a teaser of the next topic I'm gonna mention. But like, I always believe in Nate Diaz's skills, bro. I just kind of recognize them for what they are, in my opinion. And I think he's pretty good. And I don't know, I'm just able to see the matchups. And like, you know, I peep over at the chat and it already got me. Fucking Perfecto says, bro. It's like, yeah, bro, I do. I do think that Nate beats Charles. I do. But everybody's saying, Charles will kill this dude. Really? Really? Because what? Charles got better striking than Nate? Come on, bro. Nate got really good fucking striking. Sure, he takes an ass beating at the same time. It doesn't mean he doesn't necessarily have good offensive striking. You know? Like, I feel like people get that shit twisted. Nate Diaz has pretty decent offensive striking. Defensive skills in the striking department, well, he relies more on just like fucking being a juggernaut out there. I agree. But just because he relies on being a juggernaut doesn't mean he can't put a beating on fucking Oliveira and get him to start, backing down from him. Start shooting in on takedowns. Nate's not a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Nate not really like that in jiu-jitsu. You feel me? Nate not really like that in jiu-jitsu. So I believe in Nate, bro. I believe in Nate, and I fuck with the call out a little bit of Charles Oliveira. Not that I 100% am like, oh, he would beat the dog shit out of Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira isn't a good fighter. But I'm almost selling to you guys the idea that, like, this would be a competitive fight. Nate is a live, dog in this fight. Definitely going to be a dog in this fight, though. An underdog. But he's a live underdog. And I like it. I think it's competitive. I think it sells. I think that it gives an illusion that Nate could be fucked. You're gonna have a lot of people like me who are gonna be backing Nate. So it's a good conversation piece. You got a lot of different I guess you could say topics that could come out of this. A lot of conversations that could come out of this. Kind of like what we're having right now. Look at that chat blowing up as soon as we bring up Oliveira. You see what I mean though? That's why I'm saying it would be a good fight. But do I agree with him turning down McGregor because he wants to fight Oliveira instead? No, not really, bro. Not really. That's a big miss. And like, why not fight McGregor first, then Oliveira? Like, speaking of the contenders, you got some good guys right up here right now. Oliveira is the fucking BMF champion. McGregor's coming back. You don't really got to fight the Michael Moraleses of the world, the Ian Garys of the world. Paddy Pimblett coming off a loss. Why not fight a Paddy? I think it's a big miss. There's the UFC's in a good spot for him to come back, I feel like. I think he would beat Paddy's ass too. Someone tell me I'm wrong about that. But I see AI2A says Nate skills, 22-13, such a good record. Bro, you could take like 5 losses off of his record. The McGregor Trilogy, the McGregor rematch being one of them. Like Rory McDonald, Dong Young Kim. These times where he moved up a division to fight, you could take those off his damn record. Leon Edwards is on that bitch too, right? Masvidal's on that bitch too. That's like 6 fucking wins I just named that are like not really just like these bad L's, bro. Not at all. So imagine if he was like fucking 28 and 6. You'd be singing a whole nother tune. And he should be like something along the lines of 28 and 6. He was coming back against George Masvidal. And I know people are gonna call me crazy for that, but you know, that's what I believe. Go rewatch it. When that fight got stopped, Nate Diaz was coming back against George Masvidal. He was starting to gain on him. And it was only in the third round that it stopped, right? Or after the third? They're about to go into the fourth, and the referee stopped it, if I'm not mistaken. Ruby Z says Nate outboxed Michael Johnson. He definitely did, and Johnson's a good boxer, is he not? Diaz has the skills, but he's too out of it. Too many blows to his dome. Okay. Perfecto, no, he's not like that in BJJ. He's a bum. Perfecto, you got it twisted about this dude. You got it so twisted about this dude. That's all right. Nate got way better grappling than Holloway. Thank you, Ruby Z. Thank you. Thank you. You know, the thing people don't realize about Nate is that this dude's fucking tricky. You know, get too comfortable in a fight with Nate and see what the fuck happens to you. You know, camp out in a takedown on the cage, for example, and see what happens to you. You know, homie gonna freaking throw you. If you know, you know, but Nate got judo throws and everything. He's super sneaky with it. He's super sneaky with it. Charles BJJ is 10 times Nate's dude. Not really, Perfecto. When you talk about a real fight, you know, they say, right, when you get punched in the face, you go down a belt ranking. Okay. So, like, there could be definitely an ass beating going on in this fight on Nate's end towards Charles that dwindles down Charles's BJJ. Charles has been subbed by worser guys than fucking Nate. So, but these are the great arguments, right? These are the great arguments to have Charles BJJ's 10x better than Nate. You know, I'm sure that a lot of people think that on paper. I'm here to tell you that's not the fucking case. You are absolutely tripping if you think that's the case. And you should put way more respect on Nate Diaz's name. Anybody who thinks that. Nate living off his last name, Diaz, let's keep it a buck. Honestly, I would say that Nick's living off his last name more than Nate. Bro, Nate steps in there and fights. What's with the disrespect on Nate all of a sudden? I actually don't get why the MMA world likes to hate on Nate low-key. Like, what's not to respect about the dude? Nate Dogg, Connor should fight Islam Makhachev. Shout out AI2A. Brandon, I got a dub. Nate can't beat Patty. Oh, I'd bet you a dub on that one, America First. I'd bet you a dub on that. Tony Sal says Nate was coming back against Masvidal. True. I mean, go back and rewatch it. Tony Sal says Nate has better jits. I mean, come on now. Come on now. Come on now. Nate's not one of these new age fighters who fucking sucks, bro. Keep that in mind. These new age fighters, they suck. They don't respect jiu-jitsu. Diaz Army, shout out. Shout out Kwame. Tom says Charles ruined the BMF belt. Junior Mint says, I don't know why people hate on Nate. Like, what's not to like? OG fighter that has never been in a boring fight. Nah, honestly, I don't understand the Nate Diaz hate. Everyone loves to say that he's washed. He fucking sucks. And, like, they don't even believe in his striking, really, because he gets his ass beat in fights. And I get it, but, bro, he got good striking. Two things can be true. Maybe defensively, he should, you know, be better. But that doesn't mean that his offensive striking isn't fucking money, bro. Go rewatch the Gray Maynard fight and shit like that. People don't even probably know who Gray Maynard is. Hating on Nate. You guys just aren't familiar with the old highlights. You know, and that's what makes it even more crazy for Perfecto to be talking this shit, because Perfecto should know about the Gray Maynard fight. You know, the Donald Cerrone fight. Perfecto should know that some of his losses came from moving up to 170. Just, you know, wishy-washy type shit. Not caring, right? Not being one of these guys who's super political these days and like, I got to stay in 55. You know, I want to blah, blah, blah. No, he was doing whatever the fuck he wanted back in the day. Taking all comers. And Perfecto's still dissing him. It's like, damn, homie. Perfecto says it's obviously the case. I don't know if it's the case, homie. I don't know if that's the case. Got You says, if Max didn't get subbed, I don't think Nate will. LOL. Okay, there we go. Nice little comparison there, Got You. Charles couldn't sub a white belt. Okay, now that's too far. Tom, they've been hating on Nate since all the gingers were singing during the Conor fights. Kinda. Yeah, kinda. That is a good, that might have been Nate's turning point, right? Just because of how beloved Conor was. I'll gladly give Nate a Stockton slap is crazy. MGAL says, hey, what's poppin', brother? Eric says, Nate's been in a few boring fights. His first fight with Gray Maynard made me hate him until I saw his next few fights after. Please don't tell me you thought the Gray Maynard fight was boring, Eric. You are on some serious crack if you think that. Yeah, Perfecto says, I know all that. Nate is still trash, bro. That's an insane take. Nate is wash. He sucks. He's a has-been. Nate is a dog. Goes out on his shield no matter the danger. Shout out to Brian C. This is why Nate needs to fight Charles Oliveira. Maybe Nate was right all along. You know, if it's Nate versus Conor, we already know what's going to happen. Nate is going to beat the shit out of Conor. If Nate fought Charles, you'd have a lot of defenders such as myself, and you'd also have a lot of Charles Oliveira fans, you know, backing Charles. So, oh, Eric says I'm talking about the first Gray Maynard fight, which was what, on Tough, Eric? You're talking about the Tough fight, aren't you? Honestly, I watched the Tough fight, but I don't even remember it. I don't even know if it was on Tough, but I'm pretty sure they fought on Tough, and then they rematched in the UFC. Frankie Cal says Nate always takes a ton of damage even when he wins. What a bum. Really? Like, why? Why is he a bum? Because that happens. Like, you're a bum if you get beat up a little bit and you still win. Like, what's the deal with that? You know, what is the deal with that? Anyway, I reached the bottom of the chat, so I figure I'll just move on to the next topic. Nate also roasted fucking Dustin Poirier for like nearly 3 minutes, bro. This shit was fucking comedy gold. And Nate was literally going bar for bar with Theo Von. Like, Theo Von was, first off, Theo Von's like a Louisiana guy. So he was like making jokes back to Nate, but trying to like also defend Dustin in a weird way. It was also maybe, he might have also been being serious, but just in like his funny, you know, not too serious way. Like, for example, Nate would be like, Dustin Poirier got a pussy surgery. And then Theo Von's like, well, if it's a pussy, that pussy looks a lot like a hip, you know, and shit like that. Or like Nate's like, oh, he got high estrogen. And then Theo's like, I don't want to be hit by his estrogen. And then he said something like that, like that estrogen probably hits pretty hard. And then Nate's like, what did Nate fire back with? This was good. This was gold. Nate fires back with yeah, it's good that I didn't fight Dustin because he got that high estrogen. And if he were to hit me with that estrogen, because Theo just said he doesn't want to be hit by Dustin's estrogen, Nate goes, yeah, I don't want to get hit by his estrogen either. That shit rubs off on you. You know, you touch a pussy, you might become one. You know, you kick it with a pussy, you might become one. So I was dying, bro. I was dying. He went bar for bar with fucking Theo on this one. And Theo wasn't even having it. You know, he was not liking this at all. But as you can see right here, you know, here's some of the roast. Nate Diaz goes, he had pussy removal surgery. That's when Theo's like, it looked a lot like a hip. Louisiana has pussy boy. He has high estrogen. This was gold. This was gold. Like, I couldn't believe the Nate Diaz I was watching. Like, I didn't know Nate had it in him to be this funny. So we'll take a look at this as well. But I was dying. I was dying at this one. Almost 3 minutes of roasting. And then I actually don't got the clip, but we could pull it up somewhere else. Nate Diaz roasted the fuck out of Daniel Cormier too. He really doesn't like Daniel Cormier. Because Daniel Cormier has been critical of his fighting skills. He's like half the chat. You know, Daniel Cormier, like half the chat. He thinks like Nate's not a good fighter. Like, I don't know. He's not a good fighter. He doesn't do things right. It's like, oh, please, bro. He does plenty of things right. Plenty of things right. And at least Nate, when he hurts his fucking opponent, he can get a sub on the ground. You know, 9 out of 10 of your guys' favorite fighters in the chat who are hating on Nate right now, 9 out of 10 of your guys' favorite fighters don't have the ability to go fucking for a sub when they drop their opponent. and maybe like 7 out of 10 of your favorite fighters, because obviously your favorite fighter is going to be like a champion who can do shit like that. But I'm talking about those guys who are like, on the come up and shit like that, who you guys be glazing, who ain't done shit. Yeah, they're not the ones who follow their opponents down to the ground after rocking them on the feet and getting subs. Nate does that, and you already know I say that. If you do that, you are in the upper echelon, because the way the UFC is right now, not everybody does that. Not even close to everybody does that. Yeah, Tony South says he clowned Josh Thompson too. He was on fire. Yeah, he did. They fought twice after Tough, says Eric. Okay, got you. Adam 22 would beat Nate. What'd they do? They fought in the finale or something? I gotta look up Nate's record again. John Jones versus Gene Silva. Do we just want to kill Gene Silva now? Eric says hot take, but I think Nate would have subbed Dustin back when they were supposed to fight. No, honestly, I think Nate would probably beat a guy like Dustin. People think I'm crazy, but just let the fight play out, bro. Let the fight play out. I think Nate beats a guy like Dustin. Kwame says, when you end a Diaz brother, you'll hear the iconic finish him. Those boys immortal. They are Earth Realm Warriors, Mortal Kombat. Shout out to Kwame. Frankie Cal says, Nate has a terrible record and got beat up by the Disney boy. Huh? Is the Disney boy, Jake Paul. He thinks he beat Jake Paul. Nate might as well fight Cain Velasquez, both old dinosaurs. And so one other topic on the day, how do you think Topuria moves up after, or do you think Topuria moves up after White House fight? If Islam's still around, then yeah. If Islam's still around, then yeah. He will move up for sure, probably. Ilia here for a good time, not a long time. He's moving into boxing soon. Don't forget that he said that recently. He's just going to wrap up his goals in the UFC and he's out. He's going to dip because Dana doesn't pay them accordingly. So he got to go get his money elsewhere, in boxing. So enjoy Ilia while you can. He's going to move up after this win over Gaethje, this easy lick. He's going to fight Islam, and then he's probably going to leave and go into boxing on a high note. So the other thing on the evening, boys, is this one right here. I got a little update on the Gervonta Davis situation. And yeah, he was pretty abusive towards his ex-girlfriend. Although, this is a very messy case. And I guess I could just kind of give you guys a little bit of a face value thing just off the back. It's like, yeah, you're going to see a surveillance video of him dragging his girlfriend through the club. Dragging is a bit of a overused word, but he did kind of grab her in the head/neck area, the hair/neck area. And he's kind of pushing her around, shoving her around, muscling her through the club. That's more so. He didn't drag her physically, but he was definitely, grabbing her and muscling her throughout the club into a parking garage where she later escaped. Now, we all know, this girl, she accused Gervonta of assaulting her, beating the living dog shit out of her, kidnapping her in a back room and all this stuff. And that video doesn't really depict that at all. Now, is what Gervonta Davis did excusable in the video? It's not really. Look at these two screenshots of him putting his hands on her like that. This shit's not even wanted. Here he is forcing her to go downstairs. Here he is forcing her into a doorway. So he's definitely muscling her throughout the club, trying to get her to leave with him. This dude, this straight tricking at its finest, is it not? If you in love with a fucking stripper, you a fucking trick, dude. Get a life, bro. Honestly, I could care less, really, but I'm just saying, like, grown ass man, millions of dollars, throwing away his fucking life over a stripper that he shouldn't even be dating in the damn first place. Then he's going ahead and assaulting her. And it's like, it's not cool. It's not cool doing this to somebody. But is it cool that she went ahead and exaggerated and said that he beat the dog shit out of her and all this stuff? No, it's not either. What this is, in my opinion, is blurring the lines. Gervonta is pushing it to the furthest extent of what he might be able to get away with legally. And of course, this girl, and I don't even know if he could get away with this stuff legally, right? I just don't even know. There's a civil lawsuit going on right now. There's also a criminal case going on right now. So he's still in the weeds with this whole thing. But it's like, this girl, she's so mad about the whole thing that she wants him to get in trouble. But what he did isn't really going to get him in trouble like she wants him to get in trouble. So then she's forced to kind of lie. And this is that weird little dynamic. It's that weird little dynamic. I feel like this is almost like behind the scenes of why you see some false charges happen. You know, People will come out and be like, "Oh yeah, this girl's a crazy fucking bitch because, she accused Tank of this and it turns out, the charges got dropped or it didn't get, followed through with in court or proven, like Tank's guilty." But then, there's the color of it, which is like she did all that and she accused him of all that because of him doing this to her. And while, yes, she exaggerated it, this isn't cool either. And there should be some form of justice for actions like this. This just isn't cool to be treating people like this in general, point blank, period. It's not cool to be treating people like this. If people don't want to be somewhere with you, you should leave them the fuck alone, bro. Who the fuck are you to control someone else, another grown ass human being? You're nobody to be doing that. So that's why I say, like, yeah, she exaggerated, it seems like, based off the video, because she escaped. But she says she got locked into a back room and all this stuff. So it's like, I don't fucking know. Could there be surveillance footage that happened before this that we don't have access to? Maybe. So I just don't know. But it looks like she escaped. She did accuse him of things, but she also, I think she made it seem worser than the video depicts. So now we have more questions. But I would even ask you, I would challenge you, right? With everything I just said, it's like, what do you do? I mean, I guess you blame her a little bit, but fair question, right? Do you blame her for exaggerating that Tank did more than what he maybe really did? Because what Tank did isn't enough to really like get him arrested, but he's still like, that's pretty like emotionally abusive. That's pretty traumatizing. That's pretty troubling, for a human being, a young girl to go through. So what's her answer for that? Just because Tank didn't do enough to cross over that legal line, she just got to take it on the chin? Not saying that, it's right that she did what she did, but I'm saying you put somebody in a hard place like that, and when they do crazy shit, can you really blame them? That's what I got to say. So we'll take a look at the surveillance footage as well. And I got a little bit of reports to read about it, so we'll take a look at this. But this is pretty much the news on the evening, boys. Pretty much the news on the evening. You all know Martin Sano Jr., he'd been arrested. We went over this last night. So this is just me posting it on the feed today. Hey, look at BBJ Ninja Recovery. He had to comment on this. Shout out Jose Garcia, part of the Diaz army, the Nate Diaz army. The guy who's been revealing a lot of the news, to the public over these past months, right? Like when I say things like this, let me read one thing. I say that Martin Sano is rumored to be in a three-way love triangle with Nick Diaz and his wife Kayla Ramos, and already had an arrest warrant for assault charges on Kayla in Las Vegas. People are gonna say, bro, why would you say that there's no proof? Bro, there is proof. BBJ Ninja Recovery posted proof that Martin Sano had a warrant out for his arrest in Las Vegas for beating on Kayla. I didn't put the alleged part that Martin Sano was allegedly pimping out Kayla while Nick was in rehab for money so they could stay afloat. I didn't put that in there because there's no proof of that, but that is being alleged as well. Right? That's why they're saying that Martin Sano put hands on Kayla in the first place and got the warrant in the first place because he beat her because he's her pimp. Okay? But there was proof of the arrest warrant. I've seen it. And BBJ Ninja Recovery posted it. And then the part about the three-way love triangle, don't at me, at Kayla Ramos. That's why they called me, because they wanted me to delete a video of me reacting to, again, BBJ Ninja Recovery posting, the phone call with Kayla and Martin's ex-wife, his baby mama, where Kayla's telling his baby mama that, she's going to try to have a baby with Martin and Nick when Nick gets out of rehab, and that she loves them. If you've seen that movie Savages, it's some straight Savages shit. Two dudes fucking one bitch. So don't fucking at me. I don't give a fuck what you got to say. I got all the receipts. I got all the proof. Okay, I'm going to say whatever I want to say. And, there's nothing crazy. But I'm just saying, I know people might not like it when I put the three-way love triangle and shit. I got all the proof that I need to fucking put out a statement like that. Okay, I'm not fucking 5 years old. I don't need anyone policing what the fuck I say. Not that anyone has. But if AI2A gets any fucking funny ideas trying to come at me again, policing me, it ain't gonna work, pal. It ain't gonna fucking work. So anyway, let's go back to the beginning. Let's react to some of these Nate Diaz clips. I actually wanted to go to the Theo Vaughn part. Everybody liked the damn stream. You guys are not running up the likes enough. It's at 13. So just run up the likes, boys. 25 people in here. We need to get those likes up. And subscribe if you're not subscribed, motherfuckers. Was it at like the 40-minute mark? Let's see what market where it's at. Might be at the 40-minute mark.
And he's like, yeah, woo, and he's just sitting there. And that's a good fucking scene, right? I'm gonna bring Joe Schilling out.
Let's
and kick
too,
up
right?
a few.
In you guys' universe, so
You know,
I mean, he didn't have much motion.
He's emotional. He's fucking.
Hold on.
Giving you shit.
Do you think Jake Paul will ever fight MMA, or do you extra 15% off?
I think it's gonna be a good card.
Get like low key, like closeted gay
I don't
dude.
know.
Or whatever.
I'm gonna say I don't know. Who's doing it?
Nate turned down the fight. He more so turned down the contract because he was afraid that they were going to put him against Conor. Not literally afraid, but yeah, he turned down more money to re-sign with the UFC because he was worried, that they were going to make him fight Conor, and he doesn't want to fight Conor. He'd rather fight Oliveira, but he didn't want to take that risk. He's about to explain it, so perfect timing, buyer seller. I don't know how long you've been in here, but perfect timing.
I just don't have time for naps, man.
What's this guy's beef with naps?
Dude, this motherfucker takes naps. I don't trust.
Nate's low-key funny as hell, though. He's like bringing up all these funny-ass topics, like John Berthal hating naps. Nate's like, what's this dude's beef with naps? It's low-key funny.
People take naps, dude. I just found that out. He doesn't take naps, dude. He's a grown-ass man. No, you don't fuck. You did. Yeah, it's like, dude, like the whole.
What's poppin', Soda Pop? What's poppin', homie? Good to see you in here. Hey, Soda Pop, you think Tommy McMillan's going to win his debut this weekend or what? Haven't looked into it yet. But I know he's fighting. All the fanboys are out. I'm excited for it. I love John Bernthal. Yeah, shout out to Walking Dead. Nate made Theo break character LMAO. Nah, he literally did. He literally did. I don't know if it's in the same way that you're talking about, but I saw him break character when Nate was roasting fucking Poirier and Theo couldn't even be his funny self. He had to like fucking, he like literally could not be his funny self. I also feel like Theo made Nate break character, Bloodhound, if you follow me on that one. Loki, I feel like Theo made Nate break character a little bit too. Buyer seller says, hard for me to believe, just got here. Perfect, homie. You can hear it from Nate's mouth himself. Soda Pop goes, yeah, he's going to win, but he's not that good. His striking defense is really bad. Okay. All right. Shout out to Soda Pop for that. Elite grappling, though. Yeah, apparently he's like a state champion. So he's definitely a good grappler. Let's see him fight, Let's see him fight. I got nothing against the guy. It just bothers me when people co-sign him too soon. So I'll be watching with a very close eye because if people are co-signing him, I want to find out. Bloodhound says, I didn't watch enough to see Nate break character. Got you. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about when he roasted Dustin. Okay, got you. So we on the same page. He wanted to fight Francis. Please. Okay, let's watch it now. We're about to get right into this topic. Why he turned down the McGregor trilogy for less money or for more money. How do you say this? Why he turned down more money for the McGregor trilogy and took less money to fight Mike Perry on MVP Netflix. Nate's going to explain it in his own words.
The whole world's moving while you're napping, bro. It's fucking. I can't fuck with a nap. I can't. Oh.
Hey, you came with me for a day?
MVP or whatever, and we're not worried about that. But bro, I don't know. It's just like all of his excuses as to why he didn't want to re-sign with UFC. The only one that I really kind of like agree with is like, okay, the Mike Perry fight, I could see you being more excited to train for that one because it would be more of a scrap. You know, even if he claims he wants to fight Charles Oliveira, it's like, you know, Charles could easily be grappling with him and make the fight boring. There's a 0% chance of that happening with Mike Perry. So I actually agree with that one point. But other than that, it's like, you don't want to fight Conor because he's washed. I mean, whoever made you a noble prince, bro, you're not above anybody taking an easy lick. If it's an easy lick, fucking take it. Like you're getting into your older years. The only other option than easy licks, bro, is tough ass fights. And here you are fucking denying an easy lick. Whatever. You know, I admire it if he wants the tough fights. Speaking of Charles Oliveira, he thinks that the UFC is going to give Conor to Charles. Well, bro, if the UFC is going to give Conor to Charles, why don't you think the UFC would have given you to Charles in your return for your belt that you created? You're doubtful of that? So you went and signed with MVP or something or Netflix? Like, you know, that's two holes in the argument. You think Conor is going to get the opportunity? Well, then if Conor would have gotten it, then why don't you think you would have gotten it? You don't want to fight Conor because he's washed. Who gives a fuck? You know, the money, you got offered more money, point blank period. Who needs to explain that? Why wouldn't you take the more money? So, I don't know. Those are all of Nate's reasons, though. And then even the Paddy Pimblett fight, like I mentioned earlier, the Conor McGregor fight, the Charles Oliveira fight, it being not the right timing to come back now, then when the fuck is the right timing, homie? When the fuck is the right timing? Now is a time where you got a lot of decent little matchups that you could run. And like they're not really against the best guys in the world, right? Charles not really the best guy in the world right now. Paddy's not the best guy in the world. Conor's not. But I guess he was hoping Paddy would win so he could beat Paddy coming off a win, so to speak. That's the other thing Nate doesn't like. You know, Nate was saying, here's another hole in his argument. He goes, you know, I don't want to lose to Conor. Well, he said all that other stuff. You know, I don't want to fight Conor. He's on his last dying leg. Then he also goes on to say that, like, also, you know, Conor's going to be super motivated to fight me, which is like, who cares? Everybody's going to be motivated to fight you. So bullshit point there. But then the main thing I want to address is the part where he says, I don't want to lose to a guy, who's on such a losing streak like McGregor, who's as down bad as McGregor. I don't want to lose to a guy like that. Homie, you're not finna lose to fucking Conor. Who the fuck needs to tell you that? What the fuck? You're not finna lose to Conor. You're going to beat that ass for the third time, but you're going to win the trilogy on paper 2-1. What the fuck, bro? You know, who thinks like that? So it's almost like that's probably the true reason. I believe him. Who the fuck wants to lose to somebody who's down bad as Conor McGregor? But it's like, bro, you're not going to fucking lose to him. But I believe that point over all the other bullshit. It's like, oh, I don't want to fight him because he sucks now. Like, please, bro. You get a bigger bag and a easier lick and you don't want it? Bigger bag and an easier lick. Now, if you were to say, you know, I'm not going to be motivated to fight a guy like McGregor because I think he sucks, and if I'm not going to be motivated to train for a guy like McGregor, then I definitely don't want to fucking take the chance at losing to him because he's so down bad. I ain't losing to a dude who fucking is on like a, you know, who's won one of his last 4 or some shit like that. Right? One of his last 4. So I think that's really, now that we've gone through all of it, that's really the issue with Nate, isn't it? He doesn't think he'll be motivated to fight a Conor. And for some odd reason, you know, he thinks that there's a chance he would lose to Conor because of the lack of motivation. So he'd rather just, you know, sidestep that whole thing and just go over to MVP and fight Mike Perry, a guy who he'll be excited to fight, a guy who has a 0% chance of grappling him, who's not going to stink up his legacy. I do get those points. You know, those are the points I get. You know, there's a 0% chance that Mike Perry could stink up Nate's legacy. And it's like there are slithers of chances. There's a slither of a chance Conor could beat Nate, mess up his legacy because of how down bad Conor is at the moment when he beats Nate. And then also, you know, Charles Oliveira, he just kind of ruined, he just put a damper on Max Holloway's legacy. So why couldn't he potentially do that to Nate? Even though I think Nate could probably beat Charles Oliveira too, right? And then the same thing with Patty. It's the same argument there. You know, Patty's not at the top. So Nate wants to fight guys at the top, so to speak, you know, who he thinks he could win, who he thinks he could beat. You know, that's the caveat. Nate wants to fight guys at the top who he thinks he could beat. That's why he's not calling out Islam. You know, he's calling out fucking Charles. And he would have called out Patty Pimblett had Patty beat Justin Gaethje, right? You guys following that now? All right. So, you know, that's the whole Nate Diaz controversy. Don't know if we'll ever see Conor fight against this Junior Mint. Saxby says he knows Conor has only 2 fights left in the UFC. He doesn't want to be under UFC multiple fight contracts. Okay. No, I get that. He could have just signed for 1 fight. Nah, UFC's too stubborn. They're not going to do that. Because in their eyes, it's like, we're not going to promote you for 1 fight. Then you're going to take all that work we did and give it to the next promoter. You know, we want you locked in. If we're going to promote you, we want you locked in. We want to reap the benefits of promoting you in your next fight, Junior Mint says, don't know if we will ever see Conor fight again. I mean, I'm kind of leaning towards we will. Almost an L for Nate says buyer seller. So buyer seller, what you think, homie? You said you didn't believe it. You believe it now, huh? He basically turned down the McGregor fight. It wasn't offered, but he turned down a bigger bag because there was a potential that he could fight McGregor. Biggest fight in UFC history, Nate Conor 3, I know, and Conor Nate straight like turned it down. Wild. Nate versus Conor after UFC. Nah, bro, I want that shit under UFC cameras. Because what you got to consider is like you can't use any of the promo from their past fights if it happens outside the UFC. It's copyrighted by the UFC. So all those press conference things, good luck using it. Good luck using it. Nate should have took the Conor trilogy, then Oliveira would be next, absolutely. Yeah, he wants to fight Perry. Malcolm says, damn, Conor, last win was 6 years ago. I remember seeing that. Shout out to Malcolm Snowden. I had to get Nate Dogg get his things and shit. Huh? He said he doesn't want to finish off Conor on his dying leg. No, I know. But who the fuck cares? Can I hop in chat? Yeah, real quick, hop in chat for 5 minutes. 5-minute timer, buyer seller, because we got a show to run. And I'm here for a good time, not a long time this evening. So let's get you on here. Let's get your thoughts on the Nate Diaz situation, turning down McGregor. A little 5-minute reaction from the homie. And then we'll get into some of the other stuff regarding Nate. And then we'll get into the Gervonta Davis thing, and then we're gonna bounce. So just go ahead and hop in. Hop in, buyer seller. Why is my Discord like fucking lagging? Buyer seller, can you hear me? Oh, wait, I can't hear buyer seller. 1 second. Hold up. Output. Buyer seller, can you hear me? Yo, yo. Testing. Motherfucker. No, I got the share mic. Testing. 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 Okay. Yo. Can you hear me or what? Mr. Buyer Seller. I got the problem. All right, now you can speak. Buyer Seller just dipped. What the? Get back in here. Buyer. It's not working. Bro, my output volume keeps getting brought back to down to 0. Why the fuck? Speak in here, buyer seller. There's a lag going on. I don't think we're gonna be able to get it done. I'm gonna give this one more shot. Go ahead and talk, buyer seller.
Testing, testing,
All right, you got lucky. That was the last
testing.
shot I was gonna give it. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
What's your take on the matter?
it works.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're talking about Nate, what we just heard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, this is how I feel. So I think Nate truly thinks, like, a lot of us are thinking like, oh, Nate, like, he might be getting washed soon. Like, he's a savage, but he's not. He couldn't even beat what's his name, Edward, uh, the fucking London guy,
Leon.
Leon. So he couldn't even beat Leon. So how are we supposed to take him seriously about actually winning fights? I think he really thinks he could win these fights. And he's like, fuck Connor. Maybe he just wants to be a savage and be like, act like Connor ain't shit to get Connor pissed. But I think he's on some crazy athletic shit where he's like, I can actually do this shit. And he actually, thinks he could be a top player, top contender. But I
But then
just
why
think
not
that's
take the more
crazy.
money? If you really think you're like
I
that,
mean,
then why not take the more money?
that's what I'm saying. I mean, why wouldn't you do the trilogy fight at the fucking he might have got on the fucking White House. He might have got International Fight Week. He would have had the biggest fight in like UFC history since for what, fucking the last 10 years or something? Or the hypest fight.
Yeah.
The revival of the UFC. He could have literally revived the UFC where it's at now. So I don't know. It's kind of a shocker to me to hear that from Nate. I didn't think he was like. I mean, he's gonna fight fucking Platinum Perry, who's fucking probably gonna beat the shit out of him. I'm not saying he's gonna lose, but he's gonna get opened up on that left eye or whatever. The fight might stop again because he fucking bleeds too much. But I see what he's saying. Like, I don't want to sign to the UFC. They're gonna give me like 3 bullshit ass fights or something. So I don't know. It's still kind of weird to me.
I got you. I got you. All right. All right. So that'll be your breakdown of it. I'm gonna respond. I'm gonna drop you from the call and then I'll respond in the chat. But thanks for calling in, buyer
Yeah,
seller.
thanks for letting me.
I got you, brother.
Appreciate it.
All right, talk to you later.
Peace out.
Okay, so you guys heard that from buyer seller himself. Tuxedo, a little forgiveness, homie. Just a little bit of forgiveness for our boy buyer seller. But thank you for the $2 dono, Tux. Thank you. I know you weren't a fan of it. I don't want to read out that chat. All right. But shout out to Tux and shout out to buyer seller for dropping in. Now, just to speak on the topic, you know, I still do think it is more so that Nate thinks that these guys can harm his legacy. That's what I think it is. You know, that's what I think it is. I think Nate feels these guys can harm his legacy who are still in the UFC. That's my take on the matter. You guys heard buyer seller's take. The last thing buyer seller said as far as you know, Nate could get cut in this fight with Nate could get cut in the fight with Mike Perry. But still, yeah, even if that's the worst thing that happens, I think the fight will still end pretty epically. So, like, I think there's not as much to lose there. And I think that's what's most appealing to Nate, is that there's actually less to lose and there's more to gain from fighting a Mike Perry. And yes, financially, there's more to gain from going back to the UFC. I think in the big picture wise, maybe he sees it as, you know, less profitable, you know, overall for his legacy. Potentially. Buyer seller says, thanks again for having me on. I got you, buyer seller. No worries, homie. Tuxedo says, read the chat and I give you a $5, but mean it. All right. Buyer seller, it's for the $5, homie. So, you know, forgive me. But Tuxedo said, fuck this chatter calling in punk. All right, buyer seller, drop the motherfucking $5 dono. Drop the motherfucking $5 dono. I ain't calling buyer seller a punk, homie. He ain't no punk to me. He's a good dude. But if you wanted to come in here and just hear from me, I could understand your perspective. He also said it's about timing. Buyer says, I don't give a fuck. Beautiful. Beautiful. Shout out to buyer seller. Shout out to Tux. Shout out to me. Junior Mint says he also said it's about timing. He did say it's about timing. You know, that's my opinion. Tuxedo says your delivery was anemic, but I will keep my word. Shout out to Tuxedo. Thank you for the $5 dono, homie. Much appreciated. Thank you, Mr. Tux. It's always a good night when Tux is donating. I make 2K a week DGAF. All right, shout out to homie. Shout out to homie. Let me get my little $5 dono for reading that bullshit. You feel me? Okay, so let's go into the next topic. Tux versus buyer seller, book it. On Perry Punch fucking promotions. All right, so should we listen to Nate roasting Charles Oliveira? We might as well, right? Okay, let's hear Nate roasting Charles. So we heard it already. We already heard him roast Charles. Let's hear him roast Dustin Poirier. This one's gold. This one is gold. Breaking character. This is Theo breaking character. You see how he just stopped himself? He like wanted to joke back and be himself, but he's breaking character. He's getting like all serious now. You know, he getting to be his like PG self because he doesn't want to disrespect Dustin. But you can hear Nate too. He's like, let's make fun of him because he knows he was about to. He's like, nah, don't stop yourself. Let's make fun of him. But it continues. You know, Theo not having it. He made a conscious decision. He's like, nah, I'm not gonna go in on Dustin right now. No fucking shot. Quick by Nate. I know they be joking about his CTE too, but that was super quick and witty. If you guys caught that, you know, Nate wouldn't have been able to say that, so to speak, if Theo didn't say he wouldn't want to be hit by that estrogen. You know, that opened up the door for Nate to quickly respond back with the, yeah, me neither. I don't want to get hit by that estrogen either. I don't want that shit rubbing off on me. That shit's funny as hell, bro. Bro, you saw that bitter ass face from Theo. I wish I could rewind it, but you can't fucking rewind it on the reels on desktop. But that bitter ass face on Theo. You guys can rewind it in the stream, actually. That was a bitter ass face by Theo, though.
You mentioned porn.
Yeah, so he really was giving Theo quite a bit of shit there. All right, and then, you know, pretty much the last topic on the evening, and then I'll be getting off. I need to also just get the sleep schedule right, boys. So, you know, for this 90 days straight of live streaming, I think this is like my first one. I know last week was a bit of a quicker stream too. You know, I got to reserve the right to have a couple quick streams, you know, at least once a week, just because, you know, restore the creative juices, have a little bit of time to myself, relax. Even just knowing that I got the stream this evening, it's like it has a little level of anxiety, and only the relaxation really starts once the stream ends on the day. So if we ended a bit earlier today, it just gives me a bit more time to chill out, you know, maybe think up some new ideas content wise. Also explore some new content, you know, bring something to the table tomorrow. So I think it'll be good. But I'm just saying this will be the last topic, and then we'll get out of here. So Tank Davis, like I said, right? Let me just read it all out to you guys. Better if I just read it. It's very short and concise, and then we'll play the videos. But, you know, surveillance footage has been released of Gervonta Davis grabbing his ex-girlfriend during a heated dispute at a Miami strip club in October 2025. TMZ has released the footage of him appearing to grab his ex-girlfriend by the neck/hair through Tootsie's Cabaret in Miami. The videos shown were pertaining to a civil lawsuit filed by Davis's ex, not the criminal case. So understand that. The videos I'm going to show you are pertaining to a civil lawsuit. He's still, right, in a criminal case. So here's more context on the situation. Following the incident, Davis's accuser filed a police report alleging she was grabbed by the neck and hair. She also filed a lawsuit alleging physical assault. So, you know, the head and the neck and hair, that was seen in the video. So that corroborates with the statement. But I didn't see a lot of physical assault, just to be honest with you. You know, if putting your hands on someone just point blank period is physical assault, or grabbing them by the hair, then yes. But beating the shit out of her, I did not see that, right? So a warrant for felony attempted kidnapping and misdemeanor battery was issued for Gervonta's arrest in January, and he was taken into custody about 2 weeks later. Authorities have dropped Davis's false imprisonment charge because it was redundant with the kidnapping charge. So again, you know, imprisonment, did he really false imprison her? She wasn't locked in her. I don't know. I don't know the law that well. But, you know, false imprisonment and kidnapping, this is what you're going to see here. This is what's going to be the false imprisonment and technically kidnapping, because she escaped in this video. She escaped in this video. And I low-key think that the guy that Tank was with, I feel like low-key he told her, like, yo, bounce, on behalf of Tank's best interest. Because Tank, there was a minute where he was slipping and he wasn't by her. Then that girl dipped, and that guy didn't do nothing to stop her. You know, he was, like, probably happy she dipped. Because the second Tank leaves, you know, his bag leaves too. So yeah, the last thing I put on here was Tank has filed a $20+ million counter lawsuit against his accuser for costing him the Jake Paul fight. So yeah, Tank's also countersuing, but I mean, this is damning ass evidence, bro. Damning ass evidence. I love anal. Don't you fucking dare retract your message, brother. Put that in here again. 90-day Perrython. Yes, sir. Shout out to Tony Sal. Tony Sal in here every day for the 90 days. My man fucking Tony Sal. Tux, thank you again for the $2 dono. Tux says, I would grapple buyer seller. Shit, we got to set up a little grappling match. Well, listen, if I get my foot in the door, if anybody wants to scrap in the chat, and I'm talking when I get my foot in the door at Brand Risk, if anybody in the chat wants to scrap, just let me know. You know, I'll DM the boys at Brand Risk. Tony Sal dropping grape emojis. Oof. Oof. I don't know about the grape emojis. Buyer seller says hop in the chat next time, Tux. Oh, we could get a little argument going if the boys are down for it. Oh shit, that's not what Tux said. Tux said I would, but grape buyer seller. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That's why Tony Sal dropped the grape emojis. Sorry, I missed that one. I missed that one. Yeah, Tux says he would butt grape you. That's crazy work, buyer seller. And then buyer seller said, hop in the chat next time, Tux. Tux is saying, Soda Pop says, I don't think he meant grapple LMAO. I guess my mind was too innocent for the moment. I didn't even like foresee that even coming into my realm. I saw grape and I just thought grapple. I'm straight thinking MMA. All right. Tuxedo says, I said butt grapple or butt grape. I got you. I almost did it again. Throw a dub on it, baby. Shit, throw a dub on it. Yeah, if the boys want to argue in the Discord, shit, I wouldn't mind it. I'm sure the rest of the chat would love it. They'd love a little bit of popcorn in their daily live stream. Anyway, no need for all that bullshit unless you guys really want to. Soda Pop says Jacob is a good Christian for real. Shout out to Soda Pop. I ain't perfect now. But shit, I might be a bit innocent minded at times. Hey, I'm having a good time. It's all about the good time. Nobody take it too serious. It's only over the internet anyway. All right. I'm not here to argue, but we can hop in chat. Not right now, later on, another time. If the argument persists, we might have to settle it. Okay, let's hop on this video, or well, I don't know why I said hop on. Let's get on this video. Let's watch it. It's a 3-minute surveillance tape of Tank, forcefully muscling this girl all throughout the strip club into the parking garage, and then she escapes, and I think that Tank's accomplice allowed her to escape. It's better if we just play it on TMZ, because on TMZ, it's the full thing. And on Instagram, you can only post minute-long snippets on slides. So let's go TMZ real quick. Virtual e-fight. Yeah, they're going to have something. Did I bookmark it? This cheating fuck. Macy Barber pooping her pants. That's the poopy you guys are talking about? I don't see no poopy, bro. That ain't no brown. But I did bookmark Macy Barber pooping herself. Ilia's ex via IG, women, you are free. Shut the fuck up. No one's worried about you. Okay, so here's the surveillance footage. Little 4-minute video. That's the girl. Big old booty. So she wasn't captured yet. I think that's one thing to kind of to identify. She wasn't captured yet. But she sees Tank and she starts kind of running away.
And here comes the defendant.
Boom, he grabs her by the hair.
He grabs her by the hair and pushes her. That's the first one. You can see he's grabbing her by the hair and pushing her down the stairs. Michael, go to the next one.
So you can see it. He's not beating the shit out of her by any means. And she wasn't imprisoned before this. She escaped after. So kidnapping, imprisonment, I'd love to know the criteria, what qualifies. Does this qualify as it? I don't know. I'll just ask the question. Here's the accomplice that eventually lets her go. A little argument ensues in the hallway.
And you can see her pleading with him.
So, again, just to put it out there, he's not really beating on her and abusing her. Well, I would say this is abuse, but he's not beating on her and assaulting her. Again, assault could be a gray area. If she doesn't want to be touched and he's touching her, I get it. But you guys know what I'm trying to say. A picture was painted that he beat the living dog shit out of this girl. And he trapped her in the back room of a club, and she was stuck there. And that's not what I'm seeing here. And I'm saying, she might have lied on him because she was so pissed at just this. And I say, I get that she's just pissed at this. I get that she's just pissed at this. And that it caused her to maybe fucking lie. Or extend the truth, I get it. This is extremely infuriating for somebody to treat you this way. For anybody. It's a violation of human rights, so to speak. Forcing someone to go anywhere they don't want to go. Walking her through the club. Looks like he's grabbing her by the hair and neck again.
Where should we sit on that?
Yeah. And this is down in the garage where he pushes her down the stairs to the garage.
The security on the floor. The one is that as well.
So you're going to see they get separated here. They get split up between a car. And she sees her way out. Boom, you see Tank in the white tee. And I swear, I don't know. I just feel like, I can't really prove it, but I feel like this guy is like whispering something to her. I don't know, even the way she's looking. I can't tell, but I feel like this guy's like, yo, just go now, go now, Because again, if Tank gets arrested, this dude loses his bag too. So he probably doesn't like that Tank's doing this. And I feel like he was like, yo, go now. Watch how this dude just totally lets her run. He doesn't even bat an eye. He just goes after Tank. I'll even rewind it like 5 seconds, right? Here's right where they get split up. Right there behind that car, who knows what could have been said. Look. So they're kind of close. It looks like she was talking to him a little bit somehow, some way. And then boom, he kind of walks right in front of her and she's gone and he looks.
And you can see, and here's where she escapes.
So just one more time on that, just because it's the biggest thing, her escaping. No commentary.
And you can see, and here's where she escapes. Michael, go to the
Imagine if she fell. She almost fell. Look. She almost fell. Imagine if she fell. Good thing she didn't. Look, she almost falls.
And you can see, and here's where she escapes.
Boom, almost falls. And then they'll show some footage of her
Michael,
walking
go to
back
the
through
last
the club.
one, please. That was it. Your Honor, you can see
Tank
what
goes
happened.
back. Tank turns around.
What
see?
happened is consistent with the affidavit she gave to the police. It's consistent with the
Look at that booty. Shout out to Tuxedo. He goes, I'm geeked up. Fuck, I'm hyped tonight. Anyone can get it. Damn, too bad I'm getting off early, Tux. It would have been a great night to keep you going. So yeah, boys, that's going to be the stories. That's going to be the news on the day. Shout out to everybody that tuned in. We're in a little bit of a lull week right now, but it's okay. I'm sure we'll get some other good topics going soon enough. Last week was pretty good, so I'm not too worried about it. We'll get some good topics going. I know it. So, but today a shorter stream, and I'll be getting off here. Shout out to everybody who watched, though. Thanks again to Tuxedo for all the donos. I think maybe like $20 in donos total. So much appreciated, my brother. Thank you very much. You already know that. Shout out to Buyer Seller for hopping in the chat this evening on the Discord for calling in. All right. I also think I'm going to start doing something where maybe on these slower days I can post on the community tab on YouTube, and you guys can I'll put a little option for you guys to comment like Q&A style stuff. So basically, when the stream kind of comes to an end on the topics for the day, especially if there's newer topics, or sorry, especially if there's less topics, what I could do is I can dive into the community post I made where you guys can submit some Q&A questions about things, just things in MMA that you want me to talk about. So I'll start doing that. But just I wanted to let you guys know that on here before I start doing it. In the future, look out for me to post on the community tab on the YouTube channel where I will basically be requesting for you guys to drop in some Q&A questions to address on the stream. Make sure they're good, make sure they're well thought out. That's what I would like from you guys. Some well thought out stuff. You guys know me by now. I'm not necessarily about like the I'm not necessarily about like the jokes are fun, right? Jokes are fun, but how much can we talk about a joke? You understand? So honestly, like what would really make me happy is if you guys were dropping in like, hey, this is happening. I got this opinion about it. Like, what do you think's going on? Something we could like dive into and discuss, like along the lines of the things we discuss every day on this channel. So that's the one little piece of advice I'll give for the Q&A stuff. When you drop in questions, let's try to avoid jokes and stuff like that, and let's go for some serious questions, right? Because I don't got enough time to talk about there's nothing to say about a joke. It's a haha moment and we move on. So don't expect anything more from that, more than a haha from me if you're just dropping like a disrespectful joke. It's okay. Disrespectful jokes are fine, but the Q&A box is intentional. Put intentional questions in there. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. Shout out Tuxedo once again for the $5 dono. Much appreciated, brother. He goes, hey, this is happening. I got this opinion about it. What do you think's going on? Yes, exactly like that. Exactly like that, Tuxedo. Couldn't have said it better myself, and I think I did say it. But shout out to Tux for dropping that in the chat, making it clear, and dropping a $5 dono as well. Much appreciated. Ilia Topuria says, hello, everyone. Read my joke, bro. You deleted your fucking joke, which was spineless of you. It says message retracted. Why don't you retype it and I'll read it? Buyer seller says, next fight night, hop in chat during the co-main, Tuxedo. We'll settle it. We don't have to wait till the fight night. You boys can settle it any fucking night. All right, that's gonna be the chats. Ilia Topuria will drop it in here. I'm gonna read it on the way out after I shout out the streets. So once again, shout out to Ilia Topuria, shout out Tuxedo Mask, shout out to Tony Sal, shout out Buyer Seller, shout out to Soda Pop. Shout out to Tyler Betts. Shout out to Perfecto. Shout out to Junior Mint. Shout out to Bloodhound Lil Jeff. Shout out to Frankie Cal. If you guys are new to the channel, shout out to Malcolm Snowden. If you guys are new, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. All right, make sure you're subscribed. Saxby was in this bitch. Shout out to Saxby. Shout out to Jaio Pereira. Shout out to Soda Pop for dropping in. Shout out to M Gal. Shout out to America First. Shout out to Ruby Z. Shout out to the Meat Rocket. Shout out to Kwame. Make sure you're subscribed. Shout out to Eric Ghoul. Shout out to Brian C. Shout out to Perfecto. Shout out to Got You. Shout out to Tom. Shout out America First. Shout out AI2A. Shout out Andrew Nance for dropping in. Shout out to Scott Snyder. Shout out to Otto for the good vibes as always. And that's all, boys. Much appreciated to everybody. I don't know, but I remember this name off the top of my head. If Dun Daughter was in here today, shout out to you, homie. Let's scroll to the bottom and see if there's the joke from Ilia Topuria. Bro, it wasn't retracted. The fuck you talking about, homie? If it was up here, I would read it. Stop shouting people out. My joke is more important. Well, you just missed your opportunity. Next time you'll learn not to play around, and you would have dropped it instead of typing those other 2 messages, I love anal. It was really simple. I said, read the last 2 messages, or drop it in the chat. I'll read it once I'm done shouting out the streets. You dropped 2 messages. Neither of them were the joke. I'm a little disappointed. You know, I wanted to know what the joke was. Now I'll never get to know. But we out of this bitch. I love anal. So next time when I tell you, you know, when I say drop the joke, homie, drop the fucking joke. Shout out Brian C. Shout out everybody. Tuxedo says, I swear nothing makes Perry log off faster than a dono. That can't be the case. That can't be the case. Ilevano says, I put it, I don't know why it's not showing for you. Homie, it's still not showing. Promise you. Ilevano says, damn it. Otto says, see you later, man. Ricky LaFleur says, what's good, bro? What's poppin', homie? We signing off now, homie. We signing off now. But good to see you. Hop in here the next time. If you want to catch me. Perry hates money. I love money. I love money. Bro, just stay on. We need you. He dropped it twice, homie. No, I literally don't see it. Like, I literally don't see it. I literally don't see it. I've read out all of his chats. What the fuck else are you going to do? I'm going to relax. I'm going to just take it easy and chill. Tux. If you guys want me to chop, 80 says, what's up, Jacob and Cruz? So we got everybody hopping in now. I'll chop it up for a little bit longer. Let me go make a little bit of oatmeal real quick. Chill on stream. All right, let me make a little bit of oatmeal and come back. All right, fuck. We'll make it a little hardcore. I'm not promising for very long. You might get an extra 15 to 20. Whatever you get, I'm sure you guys will be appreciative of. But I'll go make some oatmeal and come back. Maybe I'll even smoke a bowl on stream. Who knows? We really in the weeds now. 1 second. I'll come back. Jacob, what's up with Nate D? Shit, homie. I talked about it already, AD. I know you were probably busy, homie. I know you got a good excuse, so I'm not stressing you. But I did talk about it. My bad, I was muted. Tuck's telling me to smoke on stream. I think I'll pass on that one. But I have done it in the past. But see, why I was hopping off, boys, because there's nothing to fucking talk about. You know, there's nothing to talk about anymore. You boys don't got nothing for me. I don't got nothing for you. You know? We can doom scroll on X real quick. Rampage Jackson says when Dana White found out he made $7 million versus Chuck Liddell, UFC changed his contract without him knowing to make him earn less. Ryan in Flames. Pair him getting abs for summer. Should we get an ab check? We can get an ab check. Let's get this ab check. This is motivation for the chat. This motivation for the chat right here. Tuxedo says I'm down below 200 today. I'm locking in, G. Perfect. This motivation for the chat. Look at the abs, boys. Motivation for the chat. Look at the abs, boys. All right. We got to be on our healthy tip, boys. We got to be on our healthy tip. That's just some motivation for the chat. I'm always locked in, boys. Don't ever get it twisted. I'm always locked in. All right. Any day of the week, I'm locked in. Any day of the week. I'm so locked in that when I check out of being locked in, bro. When I check out of being locked in, bro, shit, it's like I ain't even happy no more. I ain't even happy no more. Tuxedo says, let's see the quads. Quad check. You might just be pear-shaped and not that lean. What does that mean, pear-shaped? If I had shorts on, I'd do a quad check. But I don't got shorts on. What is Sabih's favorite sexual position? Daggy style? Okay, Levanel, I got you. No, fun fact about me. If Tuxedo wants to know about my legs, they not. If you think they're small or something like that, I don't got small legs. I got some. Instead of belly, I got some big legs, bro. I used to be insecure about it. Instead of belly. Oh, you think all my weight goes to my legs or something? Kinda, but it's not. I ain't fat, bro. That's all I can really say, Tux. That's all I can really say. I ain't fat. See, that's what I'm saying. Bro, my legs are big, but they're not like thunder thigh. What else you guys got for me? Perry shaped. Perry Thunder Thighs. Shout out to Tuxedo. Stop eating. That is true. I don't really gain weight. I don't really gain weight in like my upper body as much as I do in my butt and my thighs. That is true. But you know, white people, they get a lot of weight in their lower back and shit like that and in their belly. Me, you know, I get fat in my butt and in my thighs, low key. I guess. But yeah, genetically people grow fat. Like, I noticed that by the races, they kind of like it's genetic. '80 says, Jacob, did you see Armand and Nina on Neon stream? Motherfuckers are deaf on Armand's side, dude. Getting mad love from the viewers. Dana is going to have to make his fight. I didn't see Armand and Nia on Neon stream, but good shit. And yes, Armand's definitely crossed over, bro. Armand's definitely crossed over. Dana got to eat his words already, bro. It's over with. That whole Armand Sarukian gimmick is over with. Nobody's buying that shit, bro. We fuck with Armand. End of. We fuck with him. We don't give a shit what Dana got to say. We run these streets. That'll go straight to your thighs. Armand and Nina will be like together, or Nina husband is like Larry Wheels. Perry Thick with 2 C's. Yeah, shout out to Tuxedo. Charles Nicholson says Nate got offered $15 million for the Conor fight, then he would be stuck in a contract for $4 million per fight. Now he gets to do a one-off for $10 million and then gets to go back to UFC 4. Nate's a smart businessman. He gets that Conor fight whenever he wants it. He's trying to make the most money possible. Shout out to Charles Nicholas. You can go back and watch my take on it, homie. I'm glad you came in here and shared your take. I kind of disagree a little bit, but just go back and watch what I had to say about it. Because I do get what you're saying, Charles, but it's a bit of an assumption. We don't know that. We don't know that Nate got offered $15 million for the Conor fight, which would have equated out to $4 million per fight, because we don't know how many fights were going to be on that deal. We don't know the number that was offered. And Nate did say he got offered more to fight McGregor low key than he did to fight Mike Perry. So at face value, why would he say that? I don't think Nate is unintelligent enough to say something like that when, you know, he would have made, you know, more money collectively over completing the contract. I think Nate would have put that in there. You know, Nate says he was offered basically more money to fight Conor than he's getting to fight Mike Perry. So I get it, homie, but there's just a ton of assumptions in there, you know? And who knows that the UFC wants to bring Nate back again. You know, it's not that cut and dry. I wish it was. Tuck says, but I store all my fat in my midsection, so getting abs is a bitch. Yeah, I told you. It's like genetics by race. But I'm close. I have a 4-pack. Problem is I can lose like 20 pounds and still basically have a 4-pack because of my genetics. Nah, I feel you. You know, the one main thing that's really helps with abs is you got to trim down the fat. And if you want help trimming down the fat, there's only one thing that does it. It's not running 30 fucking miles a day. It's restricting your fat intake, you know, while being on a calorie deficit. That's the hardest part. I think a lot of people don't realize that, you know, being on a calorie deficit is cool, but if you're on a calorie deficit eating nothing but fat all day long, how do you expect to get lean, right? Being on a calorie deficit is one thing, but it's about the macronutrients that build up that calorie deficit. And so if you want my answer, it's not an easy answer. By any means, it's not fucking easy. You could try it yourself. But if you want to trim down all the fat the best you can, I'm telling you, this, I would recommend this over running 3 miles a day. You know, it's, you know, consume 60 grams of fat a day. Limit yourself to 60 grams of fat a day. You know, put yourself in a little like 500 calorie deficit, so to speak, and restrict your fats to 60 grams a day. Okay. Do the protein for 1 pound per body weight, 1 gram per pound of body weight, and then fill up the rest with carbs. But that's really how you get a 6-pack. If people really want to know, you know, that's how you get a 6-pack. You could run 30 miles and come home and eat a bunch of shit, and it's not going to get you a 6-pack. Charles says, go listen to Josh Thompson for a real understanding of Nate Steele. But, bro, how does he know about Nate Steele? Josh Thompson is like the last person who would ever know about Nate Steele. When was the last time you made love and what was his name? Homie. I made love recently, if that's fair enough for me to say. I made love recently. Don't really want to say any more than that. I smoke 60 grams of weed a day. Good shit. Unbroken says, the photo on screen blew my mind. It looks like you have a male escort sitting next to you. Homie got confused. He was probably looking at fucking the screen with a microphone or a magnifying glass. I don't know why I always mess up that word. Looking at the screen with a magnifying glass. Okay. I finished my bowl of oatmeal, so I'm gonna dip out, boys. Shout out to all you boys, though. I gave you some free game about the diet, you know? That's really it. That's really it. You really want to shred out the abs, bro. You just need to go on that deficit. And honestly, when you're on that deficit, the cardio, you don't got to do it like that. You could literally walk on the treadmill for 15 to 20 minutes and call it a day. Like, you're chilling. So, you know, work smarter, not harder. Unbroken says, I don't think I eat 20 grams of food in a day. Oh, you 100% do. Please don't go, says Tuxedo. Tux. I got to dip, homie. I got to dip, my man. I'm on a deficit of carbs. I don't recommend that. If you want me to give you more free game, I'll give you more free game. You know, I got all the free game in the world. It's like, what should I have really been? Should I have been covering combat sports, or should I have been covering bodybuilding? But let me tell you, Tuxedo, why, in my humble opinion, I'm not really into a carb deficit type of thing. First off, at face value, you know, carbs are your energy. So you're going to be burning carbs primarily when you're doing activities, you know, working out, cardio, whatever it may be. Even while you're using brain power, you use up carbohydrates. People don't realize that. But carbohydrates are used when you're using up brain power. So I like to not really restrict my carbs because it messes with all that stuff. Performance-wise, you know, fat, it doesn't really mess with your performance. And I would say, instead of being on a deficit of carbs, I get it. It works like, being on a deficit of carbs is good for like intuitive eating, you know. That's what that's good for. Being on a deficit of carbs is for intuitive eating. But if you were able to track your calories, you wouldn't need to be intuitively eating. You could actually eat more carbs. And I'm just saying all this to say that, like, essentially, okay, if you're on a calorie deficit, you're limiting your fats to 60 grams in a day. You skip 1 meal of carbs before bed, or at any point in the day, you skip 1 meal of carbs, you just consume protein for that meal, you will see yourself get insanely shredded. So that's why it's like, I think you guys should listen to me on that one. You know, people be restricting carbs and it's like, it works, but if you want the craziest results, bro, be on that calorie deficit, be consuming 60 grams of fat a day. And then, you know, after a few days of dieting, skip a meal of carbs. And you will see your body just shred the fuck out. It's insane. But that's really like, you know, once you pull the carbs after dieting, now you're locked in on one of the craziest physiques you could ever see in your life. So just letting you guys know that. Just letting you guys know that, you know, it's better to diet and then pull carbs. Then you pull the carbs after the diet. That's basically what the UFC fighters do. So, shout out to all you boys. That's the free game of the evening. Don't restrict carbs too much. Just reduce your fat intake. You know, buy some non-fat milk instead of half and half creamer. That's a great place to start. You know, it's pretty much all I got for you. You're going to have to just avoid the peanut butter and limit your butter and olive oils. There's no way around it. Yo, you smoking tonight? I'm going to smoke right now. I'm going to go smoke right now and chill. 80 says the streets are talking, no bodybuilding, all combat stuff. I got you, homie. I got you. We primarily combat and fighting. Tuxedo says, I don't have any brain power, so it's cool. I feel you. Shit, I don't got no brain power either, homie. My brain power be lacking at times for sure. Okay. Shout out to everybody. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys all later. All right, peace out, everybody. I'll see you guys tomorrow. M-Gals Fried Ass. I'll see you tomorrow, homie. All right. Peace out, everybody. Thanks for watching. Like the stream on the way out. Subscribe if